But tonight, you are watching and listening to a very special Patrick Christie's tonight with a live studio audience. So let's remind everyone that you are here. Thank you very much, everybody, for turning up. We've got wonderful people in the audience tonight. So today marked the start of 4 days of celebration to commemorate VE Day as the nation prepares to mark 80 years since the end of the Second World War. A survey has revealed, now get ready to be a bit angry about this, right? Has revealed that almost half of all Brits would not be prepared to fight for their country today. A staggering 48% of those polled said that there would be, quotes, no circumstances in which they would be willing to take up arms and go to war. Well, that sentiment was echoed, I must say. And by the way, I'm just going to preface this by saying, when you look around now, sometimes do you think, gosh, was this really worth fighting for? Was it really worth fighting for? And in some ways, it obviously was, but in some ways, I really don't think it was as well. No, but seriously, have a look at this, because I've always wanted to speak to a World War II veteran about this, I did manage to speak to him a little bit last week, and here's what he said.
None of the ministers can make up their mind on anything. Don't matter what you vote Labour in, and they promise you this and promise you that. All right, so you vote Conservatives in. They do exactly the self-same thing. And all they're doing now is, like with the Labour government, putting prices up and everything. I mean, all I get is a basic pension. All right, I don't mind about it because I can live on it. But they're putting gas prices up, they're putting water prices up, they put fares up. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's a shame. Do you feel let down?
Yeah, definitely. And I wonder now whether it was worth fighting for.
That should be a warning, that, for everyone, I think, shouldn't it? He wonders now whether or not it was worth fighting for when he looks around and he sees the state of the country. We can go to our part. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a point on this particularly? Have you got the microphone already? Who's got the mic? Has anyone got the mic? Right, let's pass that down to you, and then we'll go to Rob there. OK, so you start, so go on.
I've got 3 sons, all grown up, and they saw what the military did to me, and they have all stated, no way.
They won't?
Not a chance.
OK, that's a real shame. That's a real shame. Rob, I'll get you, and then we'll go to the panel. And if anyone else wants to make a point as well, just put your hand up. We'll get the microphone to you. Go on, Rob. Could you stand up for me, mate? Is that all right? Cheers. Yeah,
Patrick is talking about loyalty. Going back to 1971, my family had the first soldier killed from Stoke-on-Trent in Northern Ireland. Right. His name was David Frank Powell. He's got a monument in the local town hall. His father, he broke his heart and it killed him. My mother, I went to Northern Ireland and patrolled the streets 3 years after. I was lucky enough to come back. My mother told me afterwards that every day when the phone rang, she dreaded to hear the news. Since then, we've had the Falklands. I was in hospital with Simon Weston. The man, how he survived that, mentally, physically, he was baked. Came back, like a lot of people, in a very bad way. Following that, we've had Afghanistan, people with problems galore, what have you. They should be concerned, this government, about the state of what it's left behind. Personally, I think the majority, not all, of the youth of today haven't got the bottle to go and fight, right? They haven't got the bottle to do the job. They're too busy damaging monuments, ripping paintings to pieces and protesting about everything. Why not get the old-fashioned values and just do what's the correct thing for the country? Today has proven we have got a great country, and everybody's come out and supported us, you included, fantastic, in Mount Mowbray. Why can't we be like that every day? Is it all going to go away again after next week and back to square one? But I just think that the army today, it needs people who want to be in, and the country hasn't got the bottle to do it no more.
All right, well, thank you very much for those wonderful points. And for your service as well, and for your family service. So thank you very, very much. We'll get the microphone to this chap over here. Let's get to the panel now on this, because the question, the matter in hand is when it comes to the people who basically served in the Second World War, whether or not it was worth it. When you look around and you see this version of Britain today. Bob?
I mean, yes, because you Look, I think if the country's not good enough, we've got to come together to make it better. So, absolutely. And indeed, my own personal experience, OK, I was going to get into the regulars, didn't, join the reserve back in the early 2000s. I actually actively tried to get mobilised because I was watching what was happening in Iraq, even when it was going wrong. And I thought to myself, I'm in the wrong country. I want to be there. I don't care. I want to help these guys. And actually, I made sure I got mobilised in 2007. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I then 10 years, I was then on full-time reserve service until I got elected to Parliament. And I have to say, for most people in the military, they have a really fulfilling time. And I loved my time in the military. I'm still technically a reservist. I loved my time in the military. I thoroughly recommend it. But I actively took a decision when, we were stuck in Iraq, that actually I wanted to get mobilised because I wanted to do my bit. So.
This video is sponsored by Saily. Saily is a brand new eSIM service app. What it does is get you a local SIM card that you can use when you're travelling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a text back home. They've got eSIM plans in over 160 countries and 8 regions, so pretty much wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? Well, all you've got to do is hit our link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan, you can choose the best time frame for you, and then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once, so when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and just like that, you could be watching the GBNews YouTube channel. You can be connected anywhere you go, and you don't have to deal with patchy Wi-Fi in your hotels. So get sorted for your next trip by downloading Saily using the link in the description below, and if you use our code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us. Okay, I do have sympathy for people who do say that when you see migrant hotels popping up everywhere, and you see rapid demographic and cultural change, and you see certain ways in which, a lot of British people in the country, I think, are very often demonised.
Patrick, it's horrible. But
that's not what those men and women who went through the Second World War fought for, is it?
Probably, but then we have to change it, because the alternative is saying, I'm not going to play a part in the public engagement, I'm not going to bother anymore, I'll go and live in my own little world, I'll withdraw back into my own little world and my little community. And if more and more good people do that, like the people in this audience, where do we end up? We end up with an even worse country. We've got to fight to make it better.
The bottom line is we have a generation of young people that are being taught to hate this country, which is why they don't want to fight for it and they don't want to shed blood for it. But the bottom line is that, you're not... and I get why a lot of kids feel disappointed by this government and by previous governments. I get it. But you're not fighting for a government, you're fighting for your country. You're fighting for the freedoms of that country. And a lot of young people today who say they wouldn't fight, what's going to happen to them, do they think about this, if they don't fight? What's going to happen to the country they live in if they don't fight? What's going to happen to their freedoms if they don't fight? And I get why parents don't ever want their kids to go to war. I completely get that. But there'll come a point where we will have to defend our country. Do we want to live in a country like Russia under a leader like Putin, who if you say something, if you exercise free speech, you're taken to jail, tortured and possibly killed? Do we really want to live in that kind of country? And if we don't, we have to fight to preserve it.
Do you think it was disrespectful, though, to the legacy of our specifically in this case, World War II heroes, who fought and died for a certain type of Britain that some people, many people I know, feel and worry has been allowed to be eroded, whether it sacrificed at the altar of things like multiculturalism and all that stuff. Does that bother you?
But of course it was worth fighting for, because the point is that all the problems we have can be fixed, hopefully, through the ballot box, through democracy. They're problems of our own making and our own fixing, whatever we might disagree on which problems there are. And I'd still rather live in a country where you have that, where it's the ballot box and not the barrel of a gun. And I think only because we've had so long of safety and security can we even ask that question. I actually think, in a way, the idea that lots of young people don't think about fighting for the country, isn't that the goal, that they live in such comfort that they don't feel that threat? But I'd also say this hatred of young people is so unfair and so unreasonable because, you know, you've got a generation that can't get a house, can't get good pay, is coming up to their third recession in my adult lifetime, and I'm 33. You know, they've not been dealt a good hand, and so maybe give younger people a better deal and they might feel more passionately about the country.
The audience tonight whose relatives got through a war and lived in the aftermath of a war. Young people today don't have anything like that to combat.
But it's not good enough to just keep shouting at them as ungrateful.
Mean that if they don't have a house, it doesn't mean that they're living in penury. It just, they don't have a house. There are people who have lived in much tougher generations than this one.
But just constantly attacking young people as though they hate the country. I'd rather live in a country where we can throw soup on paintings than where we, you know, have things decided by martial law.
I don't think people are just insulting young people, and some of the points you say are valid. I do think that love of country is a pretty natural thing, love of community. And I think it is sad that we've got into a state that our elites, from the BBC to academia to most left-wing political parties, seem to think that actually the knee-jerk, the standard reaction is that you should be ashamed of Britain, ashamed of empire.
But I don't think that's true.
You see, it is not. I don't think it really is true.
If you could, I mean in the nicest possible way, if you could resurrect a lot of people who fought and died for Britain during World War II and you showed them where Britain was at today, I just wonder how they'd feel about it. I just wonder whether or not they'd say, oh, this is worth it. Right.
Sorry, can I just come back to that? Because...
Well, no, I want to know this lady on the front
I was just going to say, the fact that we live longer and are healthier and are safer than ever before is something that only because we have that comfort can we not appreciate it.
That is an angle to it. Now, firstly, lovely jacket. Where have you come from?
I've come from Manchester.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I think that people have fought in vain, sadly, because I think what we've got today is a dictator and he's taking our freedom away. Talking about the ballot box, Benjamin, we've even had our freedom of actually voting taken away from us, where I am. We're now being told we can't go into the pub and have banter because if there's any snowflakes around, we'll be in trouble. We've got that lady who's in prison for, you know, the mistake. I just think that we've got a dictator back in our hands.
OK, right. Well, there we go. OK, I'll get you to come back to that. I take it you don't think that Keir Starmer is literally a dictator?
No, we had an election 10 months ago. And I think it's I think it's insulting to people that live under dictators to try and say having a government you don't like means it's like a dictatorship. Because I'll tell you what, we had an election last week and people made their voice pretty loud.
Free speech anymore.
Of course we do.
Keir Starmer won't allow it. He puts young mothers in prison for a year and a half, and there was an illegal immigrant got off last week for battering two policewomen because, you know what, the excuse was his brain wasn't developed enough. He was 21 years old, for God's sake. So when you see that kind of two-tier justice in this country...
take your point, exactly. He got a suspended prison
sentence.
So
that's getting off.
He didn't go to prison. Yeah, I get what you mean.
That's getting off.
I get what you mean. I hear you. Right, there's a gentleman here now, again, with the medals. Just very quickly reminder, because people might have only tuned in for the second half of this show, so just remind us where these medals are from, please.
The medals are the General Service Medal of Northern Ireland, First Gulf War, Bosnia, and long service and, hard to believe, good conduct.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, sir... well done again. I'm going to ask you the same thing then. This section is about whether or not this country, you know, was worth fighting for. We see the modern side of it today. Go on.
I'm a second-generation soldier. I served 30 years, joined on Tuesday, 15th September 1970, about 2:30, and served 30 years. And I'm pleased to say that I meet up with many of my contemporaries now. Every year we meet up, 55 years later from that date. We spend the first night swapping medications to work out what it is we're taking and what's broken. But it's always a good gig. And what I want people to hold on to is there is a lot to be learned from the camaraderie that comes with serving in the military.
Yes.
It cannot be overstated. It simply can't. We meet, as I say, 55 years later. We were 15-year-old boys. We're now 70-year-old men. We enjoy getting back together, and I just wish we could explain to the young people of today that that is what comes out of working with a group of men, women, and just enjoying the lifestyle.
What a lovely point that is. Well done.
Just 2 points on that. I love this camaraderie. I mean, I did my sort of full-time service for 10 years, and almost every day I got the mickey taken out of me. And it's a sign of affection. I was Crazy Bob. And I loved it. I miss being...
we want to know
And secondly, people go on, and sometimes rightly, about the mental health issues, and yes, combat stress, it is a thing. PTSD is a thing. Suicide rates after war peak at about 7 years. So it is a thing, and I'm not knocking it. But for most people, the military and, in the Navy, Army, Air Force, actually you get great qualifications, you get great camaraderie, you get really good times, and actually it's very psychologically healthy. I mean, I know that people don't want to necessarily say this, but when I was serving in Iraq and we were going out on patrol, occasionally getting shot at, you have, common purpose, you have one can of beer on the Friday night and all that sort of thing, and you have this shared sense of purpose, and it is very healthy for you in many ways.
Now, right, very, very quickly, because I'm going to go to give away. I need to tease what's coming up, but there's a lady on the front row here who's got a fantastic outfit on, and the reason I want to come to you is because we've got loads of people waiting in the green room, because about 60, 70 people wanting to turn up tonight, and we're about to do an audience switch. So I don't know if you're going to end up still being in here, but afterwards, I hope you are. But I just wanted to ask you, I just wanted to give you the chance where you had it, just to basically applaud your outfit for the evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So,
where have you come from tonight, then? Where have you come from?
London. I'm London.
London.
Yeah.
So talk to me through this outfit, then. What are we looking at here?
You're looking
amazing.
at a V-Day. I don't know what I can say, really.
V-Day spectacular, isn't it? There we go.
Love the boots.
All right. I'm going to ask you to be very good. Have you got a little point on what we were talking about whether Britain was worth fighting for or anything like that? Do you think that you'd like to make?
Of course it is. It's our country. I was born and bred here, regardless of the colour of my skin. I'm proud to be British, and I think everyone who lives in this country or was born here, and all these veterans here, I applaud. I really, really, really admire what you've done, and it's just it's made me feel very emotional. But it means a lot to me, and I'm sure it should mean a lot to everyone in this room.
Absolutely.
And everywhere else.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Amazing. I just was desperate to get you on the telly. That's what you look so much. There is still... Put you on the spot there, sorry.